Come on, Boomer, get it set.
It's going, man. Hey, hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Mutt-Man, and I'm here with Karl O'Rowe, and also with Macho Dan, and we are going to talk about DEATHSWORN. I've really been looking forward to this one, guys. This book looks awesome to me. I'm new to DEATHSWORN, so we're going to ask some questions. Excuse me. If you are in the chat and you want to jump in and start asking questions, please let's do this John Malin style. Y'all at me so I can see your questions, or you can at Macho and he'll see your questions and we'll make sure that we read them. But we're going to go through some of our questions first and just basically talk about this comic book and the coolness that is Mr. Karl O'Rowe. All right. So Karl, why don't you just kind of tell us a little bit, brief about yourself, where you're from, what you're into, your favorite color.
I think all my stuff is already out there, so I can be doxxed real easily. But yeah, I'm Karl. I'm from Ireland. I don't know. I'm 21. I draw comics. Yeah.
Hey man, that is nice and concise.
Yeah, there's not much except the books. They're way more interesting than me.
No, I'm sure that's not true, because to come up with some of this stuff, you must have a pretty crazy, interesting mind and imagination. So what are the influences that brought about DEATHSWORN? How did DEATHSWORN get started?
How I came up with the story, it was a mixed bag of stuff, because I came up with a name before I came up with anything else. And it was just because I was I was messing around with making up logos, like just making up logos for random comic books that would never exist,
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to do like an 80s style, like, like the crazy glowing letters and the weird chrome looking design. And so I was coming up with all these crazy names for stuff. And I had like Thunder Scream and all these like out there wild names, and DEATHSWORN just kind of jumped out at me, and I was like, yeah, that's cool, because that could be someone's name. It's a setup for a sort of world. It's a tone, it's a mood.
Yeah.
And then I made like the original logo, and then I got to the point where I was just making random characters for like kind of Silver Agey random poster stuff, and I had a bunch of characters already made. I had Dominic Danger, who's a character in the book. He's like a bounty hunter type. I already had him made, and I thought to myself, like, I should make someone to go with the name DEATHSWORN.
Yeah.
And so I thought, how about a Frank Frazetta barbarian meets space fantasy sci-fi? And that's how he started. And he was originally like, he was purple, and he had like kind of gingery hair, and he was super tan, and then he moved on to turquoise, and now he's what he is now.
Man, that is really cool. So so you mentioned Frank Frazetta. What other kind of like comic book influences?
When it comes to comic books, it's weird, because it's like I have the comic books that influence my style, and then comic books that influence the story or whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, I love Thor. I love stuff like Deathlock.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Skull the Slayer.
Yeah.
Like weird stuff that like I just found like I'll go into a store and you find these old, like these reprints in trade paperback, and you're like,
right,
wow, this looks so cool. Like, how come nothing looks like this anymore? And you see Skull the Slayer, and it's like crazy barbarian stuff, and then there's like dinosaurs, and it turns out the dinosaurs are robots, and it's like, it's just it's great.
Yeah.
So
your book is very like your look and the name and everything's very metal, like rock and roll, and that vibes with that 80s kind of look to the logos and stuff so well. So I'm a bit like, I love retro stuff like that. So it was a very as soon as I saw that stuff, I was interested immediately. It looks great.
Yeah, well, I was always into, like, even when I was a kid, I liked like Escape from New York. Yeah, Big Trouble in Little China. Like, I remember, because it'd be on the TV, and my dad would just be like, "You should watch this. It's a good movie." And that's how I watched Big Trouble in Little China. And I was like, this is like, even though it's just, you know, it's not a, it doesn't really follow any like typical storytelling or anything. It's just a bunch of stuff happening. But I just loved it. I loved it.
It's got to be my favorite Kurt Russell movie.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like the sort of like DEATHSWORN is sort of more inspired by like a Snake Plissken type character, you know.
Okay.
But Dominic Danger, the bounty hunter character in the book, is full on Jack Burton. Like even his introduction is straight from Jack Burton, you know.
That's cool. That's cool, man. I dig it.
I'm going to present to everyone. So as handsome as you are, Macho, I'm going to lock the screen on myself.
I know you're just jealous.
So we can kind of go through this stuff. And Karl, I'll just ask you questions, and you can kind of talk through as we're looking at your stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So just the link should be in the description. And Macho, if you could double check me on that, please make sure that all the links are on the page. And if you could watch that chat for me too, please.
I will. Make sure you're not booming it up. Yeah, it looks like everything's in here.
All right. So this is the cover to chapter 1. I think I saw some interior art first. That my first exposure to DEATHSWORN was on Twitter, and I saw something crazy called Shift into Turbo. And I don't know what that is or how it relates, but I saw this crazy Shift into Turbo graphic, and somehow or another it led me to DEATHSWORN, and that's where I fell in love with the look of this character and this comic book. I ordered mine, but because they're coming from so far away, I haven't gotten them yet. I was hoping to get them before this call so I could actually have the books in front of me and have the chance to look through them, but they have not arrived yet. So yeah, so this is a really cool cover, and everyone that sees this that I've seen their comments to you or to to each other about the book, everyone always comments on two things. They comment on 80s retro, and they comment on the colors. So are you the colorist, or do you work with a colorist?
No, I do color. I do everything. I letter and
man. Yeah, the colors are great on this, and you've got your palette is very 80s retro, and I dig it. It looks really good. It fits with the book. Everything meshes really well together. That's what I like. The purples and stuff like that.
Thanks. Yeah, I just it's cool. You can kind of you just go out there, you know. Like I always try to add a good light source and then add a strange color to it, you know. Like I was redoing the cover for chapter 3, and I kind of had introduced this like fire element to it, and I was like, I didn't want to do just orange and yellow flames, so I did like a crazy blue around the rim, and then goes to pink, and then it goes straight to yellow. So I'm always trying to like just make it bizarre, like blacklight weirdo stuff.
Do you ever feel like you're done when you're like coloring, or do you have to just like eventually say, okay, I'm putting this down for right now, because you just keep changing stuff and adding stuff?
Sometimes I jump ahead in the process, and that's not always good, you know. I always think like you get your flats down, and then you kind of select the you change up. Once you have the flats down, like all the colors separated, you sort of pick the colors you want to use for that piece, and then you have to add in your shading, and then you add in your highlights, and then you add in like the kind of bounce lighting, like the rim lighting if you have anything, and then all the kind of outside light sources and stuff. And sometimes I'll just jump ahead. I'll have one figure like shaded, and then I'll just jump straight ahead to the rim lighting or whatever, and that always throws me off. Because
I've always go ahead.
Oh well, it's like you're not looking at it, like you're not building the image on a whole. You're like kind of zoning in and just doing one thing.
Yeah.
So
I've always been fascinated with color. Like I've said it on probably every single live stream I've done, but I can't. I'm not an artist, and I'm not good. I can't color either. I can't do either one of those things. But I've always been fascinated, especially by color, because you have to have a really good grasp on like which colors go together and which ones don't, to be able to make that image look kind of dynamic. And I just cannot do it. So I always respect somebody that can do both of those things for sure.
Well, let's talk a little bit about your characters. Who's this guy right here? This creepy looking guy right here, pale looking guy.
That's Nikolai Darkstar. He is like he's the prince of the Darkstar Empire. That's his dad there in the chair, the Emperor, and that's his sister up there beside her, up beside him in the jacket.
Okay.
And so yeah, so he basically how the story starts is that you find that DEATHSWORN has been captured by the Darkstar Empire, which are this sort of imperial force going around the galaxy capturing suns. They're solar vampires, so they actually live on solar energy. So they capture suns and they kind of take away solar energy from these planets, and they trade sunlight for slaves with the planets for the slaves to work on these massive sun stations that they can power up these sun stations and send the sunlight from across the galaxy. You don't have to be a planet just within the area. It has these relay stations that bounce the energy off of it. And basically in the same prison that DEATHSWORN is in, Captivium, Nikolai finds that there is a prisoner that is actually a sun god. And so they set off to try find him and use him as a kind of living battery so they don't have to keep capturing suns that eventually die out.
Wow. Now that is a cool premise, guys.
Yeah, that's cool, man.
That is a cool premise. Cool. Now, man, I've got a lot of questions. I don't want to spend the whole time asking my questions, but I do have some, so I'm gonna take a little liberty here, guys. Okay, I know that probably. Do we have anybody in the chat, Dan, yet? Or
yeah,
anybody?
we have Bean from PA. We have Ray. I'm not gonna try to pronounce your last name. We got Tyler from Draw and Talk. He's with us.
Right on.
And we got a few people watching as well. So yeah.
All right, cool. Right on. Well, I'm definitely going to allow time for chat questions, but I got to find out more about this thing. Who is this guy with the axe?
Oh, okay. So, that character there, the guy that looks like Wesley Snipes from Demolition Man.
Yes.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's so good.
Yeah.
So good.
So he is a character that DEATHSWORN meets in the prison, and he basically tells him of this ancient axe on this planet that can help him destroy the Darkstar Empire, and the axe is called Dardabla. And so that's kind of the thing that DEATHSWORN sets up. Now he has to escape prison. He has to go find this axe, and this is one of the sort of godlike beings that wielded it.
Okay, so the axe becomes very important to the story then.
Yep.
And we're starting out here. Okay, so this is your character, DEATHSWORN. He is basically like a rebel. He's a rebel against the Empire? Is that the case?
Yeah, he just there's a lot of mystery around him. As you get into it, you kind of find more about his background. But he's just this tortured soul type, and he's an outlaw from this empire. And he I think the first panel that introduces him basically reads his rap sheet of all the things he's done against the Empire. And so he is definitely like sworn death against these guys that have taken like stuff from him, taken a lot from him. And that's a part of the whole story that goes into it. That's where Dardabla comes in and all this stuff. But he's sort of hell-bent. He doesn't really see past his revenge.
Okay, so this character is driven by revenge, and that's why he's moving through this story like this.
Yep, he is very he's pretty hard to write because he's a reluctant hero that just is black and white and just wants to go straight through it. So
yeah, well, that gives you that character setup gives you the opportunity to really let him unleash violence, which is what every 80s good 80s influenced rock and roll influenced comic is going to need. Yeah, he's not your nice guy hero, right?
Yeah, and that's where like stuff like Dardabla comes into it. This guy, he isn't gonna sit down at a campfire with the kind of the people he finds himself on this adventure with and explain his story.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a force there that really gets inside his head and really exposes something that he doesn't want to be exposed.
Okay.
I really appreciate a piece of art where there's teeth flying out of somebody's mouth.
Oh, if you look at that art, if you look at that, I love that page because see the guy he's cutting his arm off with all the green blood.
Oh,
If you zoom in, that guy's arm is actually hitting another guy in the head.
This is as far as I can zoom in for us right now, I think.
That's great. That's great.
Let's see. Where are we at? Oh,
so
right there.
He's cutting his arm off.
Fantastic detail, Carl. Fantastic detail. Love it. Love it.
Nice.
All right. So, yeah. You are looking. I think you've got 2 issues out, right? You've got 1 and 2, chapter 1, chapter 2, and then you've got a 3rd one that you're working on now. Is that true?
Yeah. The idea is that this first arc is going to be 5 issues, and then hopefully I'll collect them. And I'm thinking about doing maybe like a kind of remastered collection that has a couple of extra pages, a couple of stuff fixed up, a couple of stuff added in. But yeah, first arc is going to be 5 issues. So
cool. All right. So we can look forward to 3 more issues, including this. This is the cover to issue 3. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, I did the cover for issue 3 when I finished number 2, but I was never really happy with it. I kind of was like sort of creatively just got at the end of finishing 2, and I just kind of slapped this cover out, and I never liked it. So that's the new cover, and that's going to be put now on the back of issue 2 when we get new print.
Nice.
I feel like you have leaped a couple of levels artistically since that first cover. Do you feel like you have improved over the course of making this comic?
Yeah, I think it's because I'm sort of in control of everything.
Yeah.
I do think like everything sort of like just everything betters. I feel like every stage like betters the one before, you know. It's like I get better at penciling when I get better at inking. I get better at coloring when I get better at inking. I get better at inking when I get better at coloring. So yeah, I think the heavy workload of it definitely like kind of pushes you forward and makes you better at it, you know?
Yeah, Dan and I talk about that a lot. We see improvement in our own book from page to page. You know, it's small and incremental, but the more you do it, the better you get. And I think what I'm seeing here is a way more seasoned looking artist than I saw on the first cover. Not that I didn't like any of that. I loved it, but I can see where you're hitting details and styles and digital coloring abilities that are at a higher level.
Yeah, I can definitely tell as well, because I'm putting like in that first cover, I don't really understand how lights work. You know, I have this sort of red rim light around people, but it's not glowing. It's just like this red that's on them.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh, I know how it glows, and I know how that kind of red light works, and that, you know, if I was to actually put characters in that same sort of red light as in the first cover, you'd have to make them way darker for the red to ever stand out, you know? Like if there are, red light doesn't work in a kind of like a regular lighted room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, DEATHSWORN in this particular, like that light from the back hitting him, his helmet and the axe and everything, and also just how you shaded his arms, like his muscles. If you get back to the first one and his muscles in this one, like it just looks like you've been able to get that form better. It looks really good. Like this cover is really, really good.
Yeah, well,
I think I even noticed on that one, I was on the cover tree.
Yeah,
I was like, I kept, because I originally had him in his blue, you know, like he was in his blue regular armor, and I know it looks blue there, but I was like, it's not working with this light source, and then I kept changing it, and I was like, oh, it should be purple, you know, because the red light and then the kind of pink in the background, and stuff like that, where you're like, you know, it starts to become more intuitive. Like that's where I feel like growth sort of is, you know, and then more leaps, more leaps from going to pencils to inks. Even though I work digitally, I was always scared, you know, because you're like, oh, what if this doesn't work out? And then you're like, no, let's go straight into the inks, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, I gotta tweet this out real quick.
I got a question for you, Karl. So you're self-publishing everything, and so you went with Etsy. Are you printing books and fulfilling those? And do you feel like Etsy's been a good choice for you to be able to self-publish?
Well, I don't fulfill them. Like, I kind of,
Okay.
I work with Revolve. Like, so it's not really like I'm not printing it or putting it out. Like, it is.
Okay. So you're
it's
putting the book out and they're selling it.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Okay.
So
cool.
I don't deal with fulfillment or whatever. I'm gonna have to because I have my own store up here, and I'm gonna start putting up like get the book with sketches and get the book whatever, you know.
Cool.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about working with Revolve? I want to know more about that too.
Yeah.
Well,
exactly.
Well, Revolve is basically run by Danny McLaughlin. So he lives up in it's based in Derry, which is up the like way north of Ireland. So they're a bit of ways from me, but well, he basically got in touch with me to do some corporate work for a charity that wanted to do like this charity comic, and that's how like we start doing it. Start working on that project called Uber Heroes, which is like a mental health, like it's for kids. So they take these comics and they bring them into schools, and they kind of get all the kids to read these books that are about dealing with mental health issues, and then they have a big talk afterwards, and they try to help out whoever kids they can. And I think they've been to like they've seen over like 6,000 kids or something, or 600 kids, 600 kids, I think, and they've been to like 100 schools. But so yeah, and then I think they were down in Dublin for a con, and they kind of did create their own stuff on the side as well. And it was my first time meeting them, and I was like, I have this idea called DEATHSWORN. And they were like, and Daniel was like, do it. And originally I only planned because we were going to 2 months after that event, there was another event, and he was like, you should come up. And I only planned to have like a poster done that I could kind of tease and sell and be like, this book's coming out now, you know, coming out soon. And Danny just got in touch and said, have that done in 2 months, have that first book done in 2 months. So I just kind of went and just put it out there, you know.
All right, so you've got a comic that's out. You've been working with Revolve, which is really cool. And you've also been putting out toys, and you've got some guy working on music. I mean, you're kind of really expanding the universe on this pretty fast. How did you get the toys made? And how did you, how did you do the boxing and all that stuff?
Well, my friend is a model maker. She's in college, like studying model making. So she just she read the first book and came up, like just made a figure of DEATHSWORN, like made a clay figure, and then she was like, I can cast this and make multiples if you want, you know. Yeah. And that's really how it started. Like it was out of
that's cool.
Yeah, it was just out of nowhere. And yeah, I mean, there's not much story to it. It was just that, and then I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we started making more. So I got them here.
You have a really good friend. That's very nice.
Yeah.
See them?
Well, I think it looks so cool, and I mean, and again, like you're kind of mastering this nostalgia, fun. You're building this brand of DEATHSWORN, and it's very effective, and it's a lot more effective than I see in other people who try to do the same thing, especially older people who like to do the same thing. And I think somehow or another, your perspective as a younger person has helped you sort of see the big top level down about why this era of entertainment is cool, and then how to translate that. And for a lot of guys like myself who kind of lived through that era, it's history to us, it's personal history. And it's harder for us to kind of reach back and pluck what was super cool about it in a macro way. So I think you're doing a really good job at that. And I'm really digging like the music how did you meet up with the I can't remember his name, but the
Fausto?
Yeah.
Fausto. Yeah.
How'd you meet up with him?
His girlfriend bought one of the books, bought chapter 1 at a convention and sent it to him. He lives in Romania, and she sent it to him because she thought that he'd be into it. And then he read it, and then got in touch with me on Facebook to tell me like how much he enjoyed it, and that he made synthwave music, and he was like, "Oh, it's real cool, like it, the '80s influence and everything." And I asked him there on the spot. I was like, "How much would it be to commission you to do like a DEATHSWORN track, you know?" And then I was kind of thinking about it for a while, and then I kind of finally just was like, "No, we'll go for it." Because my thing is like, I have all control over the comic, you know, like, and the branding and the promos and all that. Like, so I know the direction I want to put it in, you know, and I know what is DEATHSWORN and what would completely take away from that, you know. So like with the toys, I would always be terrified about going to someone and being like, "Can you make it this way?" Because I just want to, like, you know, micromanage everything just to be the way I want it, you know. But because my friend just went, like, all she asked me was like, "What would you like? Like, you want this like a He-Man type figure?" And I was like, yeah. And then it came back and it was like perfect. It was like, that's exactly what I would have done if I could sculpt something and I was going to sculpt it. That's exactly what I would do. And so I was sort of thinking like the same thing with the song. I was like, I might send this away, and then I'm never gonna get it to that like exact place that I want to get it, you know, where I could go, this is the definitive DEATHSWORN sound, you know, like this is what I hear in my head. And so I sent Fausto a couple of tracks that were like, it was all over the place. It was like Ennio Morricone songs, it was Metallica songs, it was Terminator soundtracks, it was all sorts of songs. And I was like, here's just a mixed bag of stuff that when I think of, I hear DEATHSWORN. Like, and then he came back with like this first work in progress track, and it was so spot on. Like, he just got it exactly where I wanted it, even to the tone of the synths, you know. A lot of synthwave, I never really got into synthwave because I much prefer like John Carpenter soundtracks where it has that old sound, the synths. Like modern synthwave is all like, it's very digital sound, and it doesn't have that old kind of hum and hiss that an old synth would have. And he got that perfectly. He got the tone of the synths down just right. So yeah, I mean, it was spot on. Like, I got these two people that completely got it, like completely knew what it was supposed to be, you know.
That's cool.
Yeah, it sounds like you kind of got you were very fortunate to find two people that got it like that and jumped in early, you know, because I mean, this really pushes your fan base. Have you seen your fan base growing? I mean, has it been a challenge to build a fan base, or has it been fairly easy for you? How's that going?
It was hard it only really hyped up when I had 2 out, because what happened was I started seeing people use shift into turbo, and I just started using, I was like, I saw these people using that, and I was like, this fits perfectly with what I'm making, you know, this whole turbo, this idea of turbo. And I think of turbo as like, it's a taste, it's a kind of style, it's like a branding idea, you know, like I'm going to put out all this stuff and it's all going to be like maximum level, like pushing to the limit stuff, you know, like completely out there, like, no, don't pull any punches. And so I start like making these little clips from the comic and changing word bubbles and putting, you know, shifting the turbo and stuff and posting it. And all these guys that were using turbo were like, holy crap, what is this? Like, where can we get this? Where do we buy this? And then, since then it's just like launched. And I used to hate Twitter. Like, I couldn't stand Twitter, you know. Most of the people I was the same way. Yeah, most of the people I even know in real life, I have to mute, you know, because it's like, who are you on Twitter? Like, you're putting up stuff that I have no idea about. Like, I've never heard you talk about that in real life, you know. So I hated Twitter. I used to just put stuff up on Instagram, and Instagram, there's barely any interaction, you know. But on Twitter, it's like, on Twitter, the interaction is insane now, you know. People are really into it.
Yeah, Dan was not a Twitter fan either, and I was like, man, this is where the action's going on right now. And we kind of started to push it, and we definitely have seen a lot. Like, I've gotten a lot of followers, and Dan's building a big following. He's jumped dramatically. You know,
it's because of my sweet beard.
There's a lot of sweet things about you, Dan.
The Twitter thing, I had it for years, and I I couldn't bring myself to use it. Like I had it linked to when I posted on Instagram, it would like post to Twitter. And so there's a bunch of old crap out there that I did that nobody cares about. But I never connected my personal life with Twitter. So it was easy for me to just go in with the Macho Dan persona for my Twitter feed. And that's just what Macho Dan does, is he does comic books and he talks pop culture and stuff like that. And so it was nice because I didn't have to divide that. I didn't have to like weed out all those people in my personal life. I was able to just get into Twitter and start connecting with people that are interested in the same things that I'm interested in. So I was hating it, but I eventually I've grown to kind of enjoy it in spurts. Like I can't be on it for a long period of time, or I just like I just feel like my brain is melting. So I just have to, enjoy the parts of Twitter, skim through it, find 2 or 3 things that I enjoy and talk about them or interact and then move on. But that's the best part of what you're saying, is interacting with other people, with fans or with creators that you enjoy. I think that's the best thing about Twitter, and it's immediate. It's instant gratification, and that's what people want.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So well, first of all, is this like what is this his ride right here? Look at this.
Yeah, that was an earlier version. Yeah, that was the way. See, he's more turquoise there. He wasn't completely blue yet, and he kind of has this weird computer gauntlet thing on his arm. But yeah, that was the idea.
Yeah.
And he was supposed to be way skinnier then. Like that was when he was like, I was thinking more Snake Plissken. Like I was like, this guy's not going to be built. He's going to be like skinny. He's going to have a pistol. And then, yeah, that was the idea. He'd have this kind of hover bike chopper with a cow skull that shoots laser beams out of its eyes.
I love that.
It's awesome. Yeah.
It's a cow skull, folks, that has lasers built
in space,
eye sockets in space. Come on.
A cow skull in space.
Well, that's great, man. So look, if you got questions in the chat, go ahead and hit them up. I've got a few more though. Toys. Let's see. Cartoons. Are you interested in making this a cartoon or a movie? If you could make something other than comics out of this as an entertainment source, what would it be?
I've actually been doing bits of animation in behind the scenes. Like I was messing around with making a video game for a while. Not for a while, like 2 days. Basically doing like a side-scrolling 2D sort of, I don't know, like Castlevania meets Golden Axe sort of deal. Sorry, wait a second. Yeah, I'm on live.
Do you remember I was saying to you about those shows?
I'm on live.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. See you later. Yeah, you there?
Yeah.
Sorry about
yeah,
that.
yeah. You're good. You're good.
No problem. Hey, and if there might be here in the Mutt layer, we've got some young pups that might run through here. So if you hear some
Mutt layer
pups screaming and hollering, just ignore that, folks. That's we just do it like we do it, family style.
I have chains on the Macho Cave, so nobody can get in.
That's what I need.
I'm just joking. I'm surprised. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
you're
people
up top.
just run upstairs. Yeah. So everything's.
I'm surprised my daughter hasn't gotten in here yet. Honestly, I'll be 100%.
But
anyway, keep going.
Yeah, so I was trying to find all these developers to make a game, like developing programs that were way easier, just kind of simple to use stuff, and I couldn't get any of them to work. So what I can do, I would be able to do all the sprites and animation and stuff if I found someone who could have just developed the game, then that would be fun, because I can make all the images and animations and stuff, but not really animation. I think all that stuff, it's way too big, to have one guy work.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Yeah, it's growing beyond you. Definitely. I mean, you can only spend so much time doing this, and you've already got a small empire that's growing around this character. So yeah, I want to know a little bit more about the characters. Like, tell us about. Let's see. Let me find this picture real quick. Tell us about Danger. What'd you call him?
Dominic Danger.
Dominic Danger. Yeah. What's his situation?
Well, so basically, DEATHSWORN is stuck in Captivium, and he ends up getting out because and that there has to be a story. So he ends up escaping, and he ends up getting tied up with the princess of the Empire, Tatiana Darkstar. And so what happens is that the Empire put out a call for all bounty hunters and all pirates to basically go out, get this outlaw, get the princess, and bring them back. And Dominic Danger picks up that call. And Dominic Danger is sort of like he has a history with space pirates. He has a history of like attempts to be a kind of galactic hero and failed. And now he sort of just chills out in his ship and eats pizza and waits for bounty hunter calls. And he goes on these small bounty hunter jobs.
In this universe, does Earth exist, or are we in a galaxy far, far away?
I don't know, because it's to me like one of the biggest inspirations for DEATHSWORN is He-Man, but it also kind of has like just that kind of grit and dark of like a more real life thing, like Escape from New York, you know. So
yeah,
I don't know if there's an Earth. I don't know if DEATHSWORN's human. They're just characters, you know. I don't tie myself down with that logic, you know.
Yeah,
sure. Well, you know, just as a side note, if DEATHSWORN were to ever find Earth, there is a being on Earth who might could give him a run for his money in hand-to-hand combat, and that is Hero.
What if the robot got on DEATHSWORN?
That's right. Yeah,
dude, that's what I'm talking about.
We should do it. We should do a mashup of DEATHSWORN, like I don't know, DEATHSWORN somehow killing some crazy alien with Hero latched onto him.
Hey man,
they did that in the they did like a crossover like that in the Deathlock comics. You know, the early ones, because it wasn't really set. Like it wasn't set in any universe. It was just like a broken down post-apocalyptic New York. Yeah. And there was no other mention of characters. And then one issue, just Spider-Man pops up because he fell out of like some portal, you know?
Yeah.
Well, we can definitely work that out, man, because I'm loving what you're putting down. Now, who is this character here? This looks like an evil DEATHSWORN.
An even eviler DEATHSWORN.
Wow.
But no, that's sort of more of an idea I was playing around with. It's kind of more spoilery stuff, but I want to put out there to tease. It's more of like I'm calling that now the corruption. Okay. So it's sort of more of it has some features that are on the Dardabla axe, and it kind of it's more of a sort of ethereal like inside your head sort of weird reflection, shadow realm.
Cool.
Being,
yeah.
Okay, so this what we're looking at could possibly, we don't want to spoil anything obviously, and we don't want to give too much away, but this is an effect of the axe. Is that what I'm hearing?
It's more of like it's more of like almost like a future warning to DEATHSWORN, or sort of a thing that he could be or could not be. It's a symbol of all the corruption, of all the like what you kind of find out is that like there's a reason why he was picked to pick this axe. There was a reason why he was told about it and why he was sent there, and it's because of certain things that the axe plays on the character, in a person that wields it. So that's like that's what that comes into play a part of.
All right.
That's cool.
Chat, if you got questions, let them rip. Dan, do you see any questions in there that we can talk about right now? I've got other things.
Nothing at the moment. Keep yourself going.
Okay. So
we got some people watching this.
What is the name of the female lead?
That's Tatiana Darkstar. So she's Nico's brother. They have crazy long names, crazy Eastern European names. But yeah, so she's sort of she's a rebel princess, she's never nothing that the Darkstar Empire ever did really sat well with her. And so she finds herself stuck in the middle where she has this history of like running away and being brought back and running away and being brought back. And she's sort of at this point now in her life where she has to make up, is she gonna keep running away, or is she actually going to turn and face her family and do what's right, you know. So she doesn't know if she wants to destroy the Empire, if she wants to try to change it, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she gets caught up in this adventure as well.
Well, has she been a very popular character? I've seen her a lot, and I think she's very intriguing, especially her look. She's got like almost like a vampire look, and I guess that's from the what's the name of the culture that needs the sun or that takes the sun?
The Dark Stars.
So she is that. She is a dark star. Yeah.
Yeah, and even that's sort of like, you know, because basically what happens in the Dark Stars is that they run out of like energy.
Yeah.
So what happens is they start to sort of crack, and sort of the sun energy that's left in them starts to sort of escape, you know. And so they have to, people like Tatiana, who would be more of a kind of gentler and more sort of you know, concerned about wasting suns, concerned about taking over the galaxy, she would use a solar chamber, which would be like an artificial chamber. You go in, bathes you in the light, and then you come out and you're recharged for a moment. When other guys would use more sort of like actual like stealing suns and using solar chambers that were actual direct links to suns. And so that kind of plays into the story, you know, like she's a character that has a ticking clock, you know, that's always counting down in every moment she's in, you know.
Huh.
So just when
That's
you
cool.
think that it can't get any worse for him, like, you know, something will happen to her, you know.
Yeah, that's a cool plot device to make sure that there's always something you have to think about in the background, and you have to continue, like, you know, she's an important part, I guess, of DEATHSWORN's team, maybe, right? She's with him, so he has to keep that in mind, and she has to keep that in mind, and it'll keep, you know, it'll move the story along, especially if you need a reason to move the story into somewhere else, you could, you know, throw that in.
Yeah, well, basically, DEATHSWORN ends up dragging her out on this adventure, you know, by mistake. When he's going to escape, he ends up actually, like, the way he ends up escaping, he ends up dragging her along with her. So so to everybody else, it looks like she's just run away again. You know, she went off to do this mission, and now she's run away from the Empire again. And so that's why the bounty hunters and her brother and the Empire are sent off to find them. But DEATHSWORN is, of course, he's looking for this axe, and so she's like, do I keep following this maniac and try to destroy it, or can I change his mind? Can I try to talk to my dad again and get this whole thing to change, you know?
Yeah, that's cool.
And Dominic just wants money. So there.
Money's always an easy way to make somebody like drive them in a story. That's always a good one to use. That's perfect.
Yeah, well, especially, you know, he's the kind of fallen hero, like the try-hard hero. That sort of,
yeah.
You know, and now he's in for money, and now he's gonna have to kind of sacrifice. Like, does he want the money, or does he want to actually do something with himself?
Yeah, it's great. That's
So
cool.
does Revolve Comics, do they handle all your printing and marketing in your area?
Well, there's no real marketing except for what I do, but yeah, they handle printing, they handle shipping.
Huh, that's cool.
So they are working from the Etsy store. That's how they're doing it.
Yeah,
I think it's
probably
sure.
much better ways to. Yeah, well, you could probably set up like big cartels, and I've seen other kind of online shops like that. But you know, I don't know. It's all, everybody's sort of new to this way of doing it, you know.
Yeah.
And we didn't really used to sell a lot from Etsy until everybody started noticing on Twitter, and now it's like people are so happy to show that they got it, you know, that they'll like take, you know, they'll cut out a screenshot from their basket or their order, and they'll post online and be like, look what I got. And then I worry for like 2 weeks as I wait for the comic book to arrive, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I'm seeing influences from Battlestar Galactica. Is that right? Is that accurate?
I've never watched that, so
oh, you
maybe.
never watched Battlestar? Okay. Yeah.
There's been tons of stuff that people go like point out, and I'm like, oh really? I don't know anything about that. Even the cover for number 2, people are like, that looks like the Doom cover.
Right.
And I'm like,
Doom.
Yeah, I have no history with Doom, but I was happy because I was like, oh, that's cool, you know, because
yeah,
the same people that would be into Doom would be into this, you know.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh, go ahead, Dan. Sorry.
I was going to say just the DEATHSWORN character himself. There's a book that I read that, and so there's no visual. It's not a comic book; it was a novel. There's no visual correlation, but there's a book I read called The Blade Itself, and it's by this guy named Joe Abercrombie. And there's a character in the book. And when I was like envisioning this character in my mind, like I read this before I saw your stuff, but when I saw DEATHSWORN, I thought he was this character. Like, I mean, he looked like what I was imagining in my mind, minus the helmet. But now maybe I'll just imagine the helmet in my mind when I read that book. I don't know. So it's funny how people can make connections though to things, even if they're not there. They can make connections.
Tell me about the Emperor character again. Is he? He's the main guy who's stealing or taking sun power.
Yeah, well, he's basically just the current person that's in charge of the Empire, you know. And I have a whole idea to go back and at some point do like a prologue or maybe do like a mini series or like a one shot that explains the Dark Stars, like their history, because they started off as just space pirates, you know, that developed the need for sun, and then suddenly they had to go and enslave planets, you know, to take this sun. But so yeah, he's just sort of the Emperor doesn't do a lot, you know. He's just sort of like he's the man in charge. He stands back and everybody else goes sense out. And this is Nico sort of going out to get DEATHSWORN and Tatiana with all his Dark Star assassins, who are all these like crazy samurai sci-fi influenced women. But
oh yeah, I saw that. Now this mask looks like, and I'm assuming it's a mask, but it looks Dr. Doom in.
All right, that's like a giant ship that they're called Space
Station.
Oh, yeah. Right on. Okay.
Yeah,
so the mouth has the Dr. Doom look right there in the center of his mouth.
Yeah, definitely.
I like it.
I love that thing that Kirby put in. Whenever like Dr. Doom opened his mouth, it had that weird H. That's directly taken from that.
Oh,
that's cool. That's real cool. It looks.
I thought it'd be cool for like you could make a cool like hanger sort of door thing on it. You know, like if you're gonna have this giant ship that looks like a skull, then what if like obviously the ships have to come out and melt? So let's make some weird hanger door, sort of like, I don't know.
Oh man, I love that. Any reference to Kirby inspired Dr. Doom is right up my alley, brother.
Oh yeah, well,
I like
the Emperor, the design of the Emperor himself. When I was doing it, my whole goal was it was gonna be the Frank Langella Skeletor meets Kirby. That's what the you know. So
that's cool.
the thing with the Emperor, like you can kind of see me shaded there in the background there, but you can see he has that mad kind of crazy headdress, and he has this beam in the middle of his head. And that beam is like he can actually he's contained with so much solar energy he can shoot it out of himself, you know. So he focuses it through this beam and shoots it straight out of his head.
You just said three of my favorite things in the entire universe: Frazetta, Jack Kirby, Dr. Doom. So yeah,
that's awesome.
We're best buddies now, man. Dan, you're out.
Dang it.
No, love it, dude. Love it. Absolutely. Blown away by this. I love that you're really going back and finding great stuff, repurposing, not repurposing, but being influenced by stuff that is just really great that we've lost. You know, a big part
well, I think the thing for me is that stuff was never old for me, you know? It's not like, because it was always new to me, you know, like the Masters of the Universe movie, that's a big influence on this, like the signs and that great, like in the actual Eternia world, not when they go to Earth and it's awful, but when they're out like Eternia, and just the signs and the feel and the kind of level they took those characters and the way they changed them, like that's a big inspiration. But that to me was like that might as well be new when I saw that, you know. So to me, all that
That's
stuff
cool.
is new, but there's more of a difference between the kind of storytelling and the commitment to the story, the commitment to those worlds than there is with modern stuff, you know? So I wouldn't really be that influenced with more modern stuff, because everything now is done with a kind of like a wink that it's fake, you know? Like everything now is done with a sort of like it's like, you know, they're playing on movies, they're playing on storytelling and stuff, to the point where it's sort of like they're not really focusing on taking you and trying to like engross you and committing to this world, you know. So that's what I always like about all that old stuff.
Yeah,
I love these. I guess they're the guardians of the Emperor.
yeah. I was looking at those too. They look great.
Yeah, they sort of work as like his personal guard and sort of assassins that they can send out to track people and hunt them down. And so yeah, there's any number of them, and they all look like that. They all look the same.
Yeah, there's another page here with a bunch of them, I think.
Yeah, Nico is sort of, when Nico goes out, he takes a bunch of them with him. That was in chapter 2.
Oh man, I cannot wait to get this book. I'm really excited about it, and talking about it is making me even more excited to read it. I'm trying not to read anything while I'm looking at the pictures because I don't want to spoil anything too bad. But yeah, loving this, dude. Look at this, Dan.
I see it.
Look at this, Dan. Look at this ship that is inspired by Doctor Doom.
Yeah, I mean, like Karl, if you were like trying to somehow get into Jason's good side and get him to trust you so that you could swindle him and take all of his money, you've done all the right things so far.
Even Wesley,
you've gotten on his guy. He'll probably give you his social security number now if you ask him. I bet he would.
Yeah, you can watch my kids, man, because this is
right.
This is awesome, and I know that you're going to raise them right.
Yeah, we'll just watch Kurt Russell movies.
See?
Yeah, it's Kurt Russell movies and just 80s rock and roll spectacular stuff.
So when I'm reading DEATHSWORN, do I hear, when I'm reading DEATHSWORN's voice, is it Kurt Russell's voice in my mind? Should it be?
Maybe is actually, I always hear him as Solid Snake. You're from
yeah.
Because he's sort of like he gets on to that point. By chapter 2, he's just grunting. He's not even responding to people. He's just going, you know. So that's what I hear when I read him. It's Solid Snake from like the not the Kiefer Sutherland one, the proper Solid Snake one.
Yeah. You've it's really neat to see, like, when somebody taps into a vein that they really they like. It's not emotional, but it's like very personal to them. You can always see it in what they're putting out, and I can definitely tell that stuff was important to you as you were growing up. And it's cool because nostalgia, like, that is an automatic way you can connect with an audience, and I think that you got that in spades on this for sure. I know, like, we've been excited about it, and so we've been talking we'd be like, oh man, we're gonna talk to Karl on Wednesday. So it's neat to chat with you about it and learn more, because we saw y'all, we would see you on Twitter and stuff like that, and interact a little bit, but it's very neat to hear some of the backstory and your process of going through it and everything. Yeah, I love it, man.
Nice. Yeah.
All right. Well, we got a few minutes left. I just wanted to say thanks again for spending some time with us today, Karl. And I do absolutely love DEATHSWORN, and I'm going to enjoy reading it and following along with the entire empire that you build around this, with video games and movies and cartoons and posters. And I'll probably have a DEATHSWORN poster if it's ever available.
I have posters.
Jason.
Oh, okay.
Actually, well, not posters. I have like A3. They're like, do I have them here? It's like the first cover, but it's made to look like a movie poster.
Okay,
that's cool.
So
I need one of those for the Macho Cave.
Yes, you
cast and
do.
everything underneath.
Yeah.
I never
Jason,
sold
would
them.
you
I actually
commit-
got them to when I first. I have one. Here, wait a second. Wait a second. I'll be 2 seconds.
Grab it.
All
Grab
right,
it, man.
when he's getting that, Jason, would you commit to being DEATHSWORN for Halloween next year? Right now,
I think so. At this point, I would say, yeah. I mean, I'd have to get a little closer. I have a family, so we do a family theme. So I'd have to figure out what the rest of the family would be.
so you could just have them dressed up as those like skinless imps on that cover, and then you can just battle them. That's awesome, right there.
So it's like a movie poster, like a old school movie poster, and it has the cast like written down there. You know, it's rated R.
That's
and it
cool.
has who's it? It's written by and directed by, and it has a little tagline.
So they are or they are not for sale at this point?
They're not for sale. I still have a couple. I got them when we first launched the first issue. I got a couple printed just to give away. I was like, you know what? If someone buys the book and they want it, I'll give it away. But people, when they're at a convention, don't really want to buy a big A3 print that they have to carry around with them, and then they, you know. So I still have a couple left.
If you have one and you tell me how much you want for the poster and shipping, let me know and I will PayPal you some money to get that thing. I'd love to have that on the wall in here. You let me know. Hit me up in a DM and I would buy that from you.
Oh, thanks, man. But yeah, I might put them up.
For
okay,
those
or if you put them up, that's fine too.
For those that might be watching and might think about getting it for younger folks, is this a mature audiences only type comic, or is this PG-13? How would you rate it?
Well, there's two things I don't do in it, which is there's no cursing and there's no nudity.
Okay.
I think DEATHSWORN, cool. You might see a bit of DEATHSWORN's cheeks in DEATHSWORN 3. That's as far as I go. Well, no, that's really it. And apart from that, you know, there is like blood and alien guts and stuff. But I think it's cartoony, and I don't really know. Like when it comes to the comic books, I think that there was something so weird about like when you were a kid, and a comic was just a bit too heavy for you, you know?
Yeah.
Like because like my folks don't know anything about comics, so when I would go buy like some crazy Ghost Rider trade or Watchmen or whatever, they just thought it was stupid kid stuff. And I was reading, I was bringing it into like school as like a 8-year-old, 10-year-old, like reading Watchmen, being like, oh yeah, this is super cool. And then it gets to that point, and you're like, oh, this is heavy. This is dark.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't really know. There's nothing overly dark in it. It's big, bold adventure, but there is I think I got a review today by Elizabeth. He does a bunch of comic reviews, and I think he titled his review "Awesome Violence." So I think that explains it.
Okay, so you're kind of describing, in my opinion, what's probably like a PG-13 style, something we could see in a PG-13 movie, even like, you know, one of the cool old 80s movies that your mom would let you watch, and, you know, she might not know all of the language and violence in it, but, you know, she didn't think too big of a deal of it.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah, cool. Well, I want my poster right here. So right here in the Mutt-Man studio, as you can see, we spare no expense. We've got a lot of high quality decorations, and I want my poster right here. So if you can figure out how to mass produce those, or, you know, get it to where.
Well, I think Redbubble and stuff like that does posters, so maybe I can put it up there, and then I don't have to handle anything, you know.
Yeah,
put the links out if you do that. I'd definitely be in for one of those.
Yeah, people seem to like the T-shirts. You know, people are like, "This." Yeah,
T-shirts are cool.
Oh, Dan's gonna buy me one of your T-shirts for my Christmas present, aren't you, Dan?
Yes, yes. If I can slide that past,
you better, Dan.
Slide that past the gatekeeper.
Well, I already bought you a Christmas present, and it's worth about that amount of money. So you better.
Dang, I'm gonna have to buy one. All right, I'll be on the Etsy store later.
we'll exchange
or wherever they're at.
Hey, maybe we can exchange gifts on a live stream. We'll do our.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, we'll do a Mutt-Man and Dan, Mutt-Man and Macho gift exchange.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, you already know what you're getting. Why is that? Yeah, I'm gonna put something else in there. I'm gonna put
No,
something
I
else
want
in there.
that. No, you can pick the color,
Well,
but it can't be pink.
I can pick the color, but it can't be pink. All right.
Yeah.
All right, fine. I'll take that challenge.
All right, cool. And then we can probably add in gag gift ideas too. Like I'll get you a gag
that's what
gift.
I'm saying by adding something else in there. There's gonna be something else.
Yeah. Carl, do you want to join in? You want to get a gift from us, or just you want to skip that one?
I think buying the T-shirt is gift enough for me.
All right, that's fair.
You got it. All right, this is Mutt-Man, and we have been talking to Karl O. Rowe of DEATHSWORN, one of my favorite comics of all time, and I haven't read it yet because of all the cool nostalgia and the things that are the influences for it. I already love it, and I can't wait to get my 2 copies. I've got Chapter 1 and Chapter 2 coming. At some point in time, I'm probably going to have to get the toys, and I think Dan's going to buy me a shirt, and I might get a poster. So it's been a pretty good show, guys. Yeah, so before I bounce, I also
real quick. Hey, I gotta say something, Jason, real quick. Christopher C just jumped in the chat, as we can always count on him for for a great word, and he said nobody wants to watch you guys exchange panties. Thanks, Christopher.
All right. Thanks,
very cool of you. Sorry to derail that. Go on.
You know what? We're building a fan base that is really, they're really what I like to call buttholes. You know what I mean? They're funny. They're really funny, and they're kind of buttholey. And it's, I really like these guys.
What if I make DEATHSWORN panties?
Oh
yeah.
Come on, man.
That can be done. Do it.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, do that. Done. DEATHSWORN body stocking is next.
The ideas are limitless, man. I mean, you can do anything with that.
Your merchandising is going to be off the charts.
Dan, we have a project going too. It's called Hero. Do you want to talk about it real quick? Like the 30-second spiel?
Oh man, you do this to me every time, and every time I screw it up. Yes.
Go ahead.
I will talk about it. So we have our project is called Hero, Blood of Patriots, and this is it's a 90s throwback, big gun toting super soldier, Russian commie fighting, big gun military action patriotic comic book. It's in your face and it's fun. That's the key word, and that word is capitalized every time we put it out. And we are putting it out on Indiegogo. It's live now. I'll put the link shortly here in a second. And yeah, that's it's about a robot backpack basically, and that robot backpack, it sounds kind of funny, but it is a little bit different than you might imagine. When it attaches to a soldier that's been killed in action, it can reanimate that soldier and turn it into like a hulking super soldier type thing. But we're going to explore a little bit deeper and how that robot can become self-aware, and how it can explore. We can explore humanity through it a little bit. So that's probably a little bit of everywhere, like usual, Jason. So if I missed stuff, why don't you just clean that up a little bit for me?
No, I like how you just throw everything that's at the top of your mind about our comic book out to the audience like that. Kind of do a mind dump. And I'm
the most ADD person you'll ever meet, and that's the only way I can get it out.
Yeah, and I am too, which is the challenge, Dan, because how we communicate is weird. All right, well, guys, look, I really appreciate everybody who's watching this now live. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Dan, if you don't mind, like just thanking the folks in the chat, calling them out by name.
Thank them right now. Yeah. So let's say thanks to Bean from PA. She watched the whole thing. She was here early and is there. She's cooking Thanksgiving dinner. I'm assuming because she was like, sorry, I can't ask questions. I'm up to my elbows in flour. So Bean, very cool. She's a follower on Twitter and stuff, and she tweets out a lot of our stuff. So we appreciate you very much.
God bless you, Bean. God bless you, Bean from PA, and happy Thanksgiving. And thank you for cooking. That's great.
We had Tyler from Draw and Talk. Karl, he's a great person to connect to. If you like, he might be somebody that you'd like to connect with and do a live stream. Tyler does a really cool show. We've been on a few times, and he's super fun to talk to and a great guy to know. Ray Escarcega, and he's in the chat, and he was just kind of commenting on the colors. He's saying the colors are on point. It was very cool. Thanks for watching. And then Christopher C, better late than never, sucker. But thanks for coming in and throwing out some shade to us. You don't let us rest, Christopher, in the chat. You got to come in and give us a hard time. I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of the live streams is looking at the chat and seeing Christopher be mean to us. I love it.
All right. That'll do it for us. Anything else you want to throw out, Karl, about DEATHSWORN before we sign off? Have we covered everything? What else do you have for sale that needs to be put out there?
Well, I have t-shirts on Redbubble and TeePublic. So they're both on the Karl Rowe, but I think you can find anything. If you just look up DEATHSWORN, you'll find something related to it, and then that will link you to the whole site. There's and then you can get them on mugs or whatever. Toys on my own Etsy. That's Karl Rowe. So I have the first package up with that, which is the 2 figures, Tatiana and Darkstar, DEATHSWORN, in their package. Can you see them?
Oh,
cool.
Look at that.
So that's them in their packaging. Tatiana, actually, her arms move, so she's proper posable, like that. So they're up there. You get in the first in the bundle I have up now. You get those 2 toys. You get the first 2 issues signed. You get a print and an A4 print, and you get an A4 original ink drawing. That would be something like this.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what I have up there, and I'll probably be putting up smaller bundles that have less stuff, and then ones that just have a solo toy in them. So yeah, that's basically it. Thanks for having me on. It's fun.
Absolutely.
I really like Hero. I was saying on Twitter that Hero is like Deathlock meets Metal Gear. That's the way I think of it in my head. It's like
cool. Yeah.
Even when I saw your bad guy, Falk, I was like, he looks like a kind of like one of those, Metal Gear characters where they're not a dude in a costume. It's just an evil guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really like that.
Oh, you're gonna love Volk, man. When we really get into Volk with the storyline and artwork, and you can see what we've got planned for him, you're going to love it. That dude is insane in the membrane, and he's got knives.
Yeah, he loves knives.
I love the idea of Crow as well.
Yeah,
it reminds me of there was these crappy RoboCop TV movies, and they had like a bad RoboCop that was called Cable. But I love it because it's weird, but that's what that reminds me of. Like
that's cool, man.
They're kind of the same, but they're just slightly different. And one's a bad guy, one's a good guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, Crow's like the beta version, like Crow's like the first attempt that didn't go right, and so the Crow unit really works off of rage as not courage as its main influence from the brain. So when the Crow unit plugs into the body and hawks it out, it has to go in through the rage. Dan did all this research on brains, and
I know too much about brains.
And he found that you can basically activate a certain part of the brain, which is all about anger and rage. And so that's how the Crow unit works. And so that's why the Crow is such a dangerous character, and why Hero has to basically use all of his powers to stop the Crow.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm glad you picked up on that, man. You've actually been paying attention. That's cool.
No, I love it. I think it's great. It's right up my street.
That's cool. Well, you're right up our street, and we appreciate you taking time with us today. And with that, we're going to sign off. Macho, thanks for joining us.
Oh, as always, I appreciate it. You guys have a good one. Thanks for coming, Karl.
Thanks.
All right, peace out, guys.
Yep, see ya.